Hey guys, welcome to Did You Get That on Film? On this podcast, we deep dive into horror movies, and so it is full of explicit content as well as spoilers. Please be advised. Now, let's get to the show.
This is Did You Get That on Film? Where we discuss characters in terrible situations that we would never find ourselves in. I'm your host, DP, and with me always is my co-host, someone who doesn't answer mail with no return address because she lived through anthrax. My friend Ruth.
What a throwback.
You remember that was like a big deal.
No, it was a huge deal. But hello everyone. Welcome back to a brand new episode. So in case you're wondering what the hell we're talking about today we are going to be discussing I Know What You Did Last Summer. So this was released in 1997 and it was directed by Jim Gillespie and the screenplay was by Kevin Williamson. It is loosely based on the 1973 novel by Lois Duncan of the same name, I Know What You Did Last Summer. And it is the first installment in the I Know What You Did Last Summer franchise. So there are two sequels. So there's I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, which was released in 1998, and it includes original cast members. There is another installment, so the third movie. It was released in 2006. It's called I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer, which they were wilding with that title. That was actually a direct-to-video release. So if you missed it, don't worry. I think a lot of people did. But neither one of those movies was written by Kevin Williamson. So there is actually a fourth film coming out. It's thus far untitled. It's in early production, but it is scheduled to be released in like July 2025. So Jennifer Love Hewitt has been doing a lot of interviews about it. She is for sure returning. Freddie Prinze Jr., on the other hand, he's not confirmed. That I think there were a lot of rumors that he'd already signed on, but he said that that's not true yet. So I think they're kind of still in negotiations with that. We're going to talk about it a little bit later, but I would not be surprised if Freddie Prinze Jr. did not want to reprise his role in this franchise, but I guess we'll see. So the plot of this new movie is said to be kind of similar in approach to what they did with Scream 2022, the fifth installment, where it'll be characters from the original movie, so legacy characters, are included in the story, but there is a younger cast as well, kind of setting up the new generation. Something that I didn't realize, there was also a television series. So it was an Amazon original. It was produced by James Wan, and it was actually also, I guess, loosely based on the novel. It was said to be quote unquote a modern take on the original novel. It premiered in 2021. It lasted for one season. And by one season, I mean 8 episodes. And then it was canceled in January 2022. So I guess with all that being said, we could jump into it. So the movie opens, title screen credits, camera is panning over the ocean and cliffs and winding mountain roads of Southport, North Carolina. That's where the movie is set. Not all of these shots were filmed in North Carolina. I think that Southport is actually a pretty flat place. So some of these shots were filmed in California, but the movie is set in Southport, North Carolina. So the camera then settles on a guy who's sitting on the edge of a cliff, drunk. He's actively drinking, and he's holding this silver round medallion in his hand. It has I love you written on it. And he flicks it with his finger, causing it to spin. And when it does, it makes this really high-pitched chiming noise, which is something that'll come up throughout the movie. He is alone, but when he hears some rocks and things shuffling around him, he turns, he looks around a little suspicious, but he doesn't see anyone. So he then looks back at the ocean. He's also looking down at the rocky floor beneath him. He's pretty high up. All of a sudden, fireworks go off in the distance, and the camera pans up on the fireworks before panning back down on the tail end of a parade. So then we cut to the Croker beauty pageant, and this is where we get our first look at Helen Shivers, who is a contestant in the pageant. Very beautiful, Sarah Michelle Gellar. We also meet her friends who are in the crowd. So there's Julie James, her boyfriend Ray Bronson, and then Helen's boyfriend Barry Cox. So Helen is really killing it on stage, natural beauty queen, and she ends up winning the title of Croker Queen. She gets flowers, she gets a crown, and her friends and boyfriend could not be more excited for her. And then we cut to a party. Julie and Helen, who is still wearing her crown, they're walking around having a good time. They're obviously very, very good friends. And they run into Elsa, Helen's older, more reserved, and pricklier sister. Elsa is mad prickly, just continually prickly throughout the whole movie. So in the book, Elsa is a bitch, but she's a fat bitch. You know, like, I'm not trying to like shit on. They describe her multiple times as like a fat bitch. So this Elsa is pretty. She's just like older and kind of looks down on Helen and her friends. She is not inferior to Helen in any real way. She's just kind of too old for Helen's shenanigans. So she's talking to Elsa. They exchange some insults, and Elsa leaves the party to head home. While all that's happening, Julie runs into a longtime friend named Max, who is just obviously in love with her, and he offers her a drink and to take her out on the town as a goodbye because Julie is supposed to be heading off to college in the fall. She's leaving Southport. Julie is very much not interested in Max, and she's trying to decline when Barry and Ray come up. So Max, this was so awkward to me because Barry comes up and he actually takes the drink that Max was trying to offer Julie. He completely boxes Max out of the group and he makes a toast to his friends. This is his friend group, right? But Max doesn't take the hint. He doesn't read the room and walk away. So Barry is Ryan Felipe. Is that how you say his name, right?
No, that's how you order your burrito. His name
He's
is Ryan Phillippe.
So Barry is played by Ryan Phillippe. Barry's like a quarterback. He's very cool.
I can't wait to get on that because Barry is $110.
Okay, well, yeah, we'll get there.
That's a little dude.
So that's so funny that you say that because originally, and I think I have something about this in the fun facts. Originally, when they were casting, they were looking for somebody that was like over 6 foot and obviously like heavier, you know, like a linebacker. Like he's supposed to be a quarterback. But they ended up casting Ryan Phillippe because they were like, I mean, he's like really popular. Like they were like, damn, this popular guy wants to do this movie. Hell yeah, like, let's get Ryan Phillippe in here. I really think they did a good job with casting as far as like picking the hot kids at the time. But Ryan Phillippe is not quarterback looking.
No football player.
No. So Barry boxing Max out. Max is not taking the hint right now. And he's still like in like pretending that he's in the group. He's smiling like, yeah, guys. So Barry turns around and Barry is kind of even know if buzzed is the right word. I think Barry is like kind of drunk at this point, but Barry is not a friendly drunk. He doesn't handle his liquor well, as we'll see. So he's actually kind of prickly himself, but he ends up turning around and he tells Max to take a hike, and he pushes him, and Max is pissed, and he ends up pushing Barry back. They get into a little scuffle when Ray comes over and breaks it up, and that's when the group decides to ditch the party and head down to Dawson's Beach to hang out. Dawson's Beach being a reference to Kevin Williamson's show, Dawson's Creek. We're throwing it back for you guys. If you haven't seen it, check it out. But when we get there, everybody's sitting around a fire while Barry is still chugging from a bottle of liquor. And they're telling different versions of the urban legend of the couple that's sitting in the car making out, and something happens. They're stalked by a killer. Sometimes the boyfriend gets out, you hear the squeaking of the shoes on the roof of the car, or you hear the dripping of the blood on the roof of the car. But Ray is like, no. The way that it really happened, the kids get home, and then they find the hook of an escaped mental patient in the door handle. This is how they bring up the hooked killer thing. So then the two couples separate to do a little hooking up, and they're discussing their future plans. Helen is supposed to be going off to New York, and she's going to be on, I think, Guiding Light. She's going to be like a soap opera, and then she wants to get married to Barry, have kids. And Ray is talking to Julie. She's supposed to be going off to college, but they really love each other, so they plan on being together forever. And everybody's just really happy and positive. It's that 18-year-old, the world is still in front of you. You have all these options, positivity. So that's when Ray and Julie decide to have sex for the first time. Julie is losing her virginity.
On a beach.
That's what, Dante, I was like, all that sand in all those holes.
I was just like, I know that don't feel good.
No, I don't like that. They don't even have like a beach towel though. They're like straight up on the sand. Insane.
I guess they took all their clothes off and laid it down, made a little pallet.
That's not nearly enough. I'm saying a beach towel because I'm like, that's the bare minimum, but even that wouldn't have been enough to keep all the sand out of your asshole. I'm sorry. I have a lot of feelings about beach hookups. I don't like that.
Because they write them like they're so good, but I'm just like, is that because we're not from California?
Maybe it's more romantic in California.
It must be, because I'm just like, you're trying to be I'm trying to be in the water, you're trying to be in the sand, be outside and shit. This is nasty.
No.
But anyway.
But yeah.
So I was gonna say, one, you can really tell that Kevin Williamson wrote this.
Absolutely.
It's just so melodramatic. And it's like, damn, they were really all like excited about their lives.
I know.
But what's crazy, okay, I need to ask, are they friends, Ray and Barry? Are they just friends because they're girlfriends' friends?
So that's so funny that you should say that, because in the book, I don't know if you remember this, I was actually really surprised. So I did read the book for the podcast. I cannot stress enough how it is not at all this movie. But I thought it was really funny because in the book, Ray and Barry are best friends. They're really good friends. And Julie and Helen are only friends like by proxy. They are friends because of their boyfriends being friends. In the movie, it's hard to really tell because we don't get a ton of time with these characters before what happens to them happens. And then once that happens, very much like the book, they all just kind of crumble. They go their separate ways. They don't want to be around each other anymore. But I'm like, they must be like pretty friendly. Barry lets Ray drive his car, but I never actually get the sense in the movie that they are close. Do you?
No. I feel like he only drove that car because it was just like, he was towed down drunk.
Right.
And it was just like, I'll let you drive.
Yeah, as we go on, we're going to get to more instances of this, but I actually feel like they may not be very good friends. Because at the Croker beauty pageant, when they're sitting, not that this is like end all be all, because I know that it is technically like a group of 4 friends, 2 couples, 4 friends. But when they're sitting, it's Barry sitting next to Julie, sitting next to Ray. So it's not even like they're sitting next to each other. I don't know. I just don't get the vibe that they would necessarily be friends if it weren't for their girlfriends being friends.
And also, a part of this movie it's going to come up now, or about to come up, is the different social economic levels of everyone in this story.
So it is about to come up in a minute. It like really rears its head much later in the movie, but Ray is kind of
Poor.
I don't want to say poor.
He basically says it.
Well, yes. So Barry is rich, straight up. He has the Mercedes. Like Barry is like the richest person in this friend group. Helen is not poor. Her family owns a store in the area, but they're not as rich as Barry. And then Julie also has money. I don't think she's as rich as Barry, but they are well off. They also have parents. So we get shots of Barry's mother in a pantsuit,
Which means rich
which means
and
rich.
powerful.
Yes. So we get shots of his mom. We know that his dad is in the picture because we hear him mention his dad. He's like, my dad's going to kill me, things like that. Helen, we see her father at a point in the movie. We hear her mention to her sister, like, oh, tell mom something. Julie, we see her mom. Her dad, unfortunately, we're going to learn, has passed away recently. But Ray, on the other hand, it's said pretty early. All he knows about his dad is that his dad was a fisherman, but he doesn't know anything else, apparently. So there is no dad in the picture. I'm assuming that he lives with his mom, although we're about to get to a scene. I'm not exactly sure who he lives with, but Ray is a little bit of a different tier on the economic scale here in Southport. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's kind of where Max falls too.
Yeah.
I feel like it comes up and it shouldn't come up, but it's like it does come up. It is there. Okay, so once they're all done having sex on the beach, we then cut to them getting in the car. So they're trying to drive home, and Helen asks Ray to drive Barry's car because Barry is trashed and still drinking. So Ray is not drinking, he's sober, and he is a much more sensible driver than Barry. Barry is not very pleased with the way that he's driving because Barry's a fast driver, and he's drunk, he's kind of agitated and kind of bored. So he ends up getting up and turning on some really, really super loud rock music, really blasting it. And he stands up to stand out of the sunroof. Still has his liquor bottle in hand as Ray heads down this really winding mountain road. So while Barry is flailing out the sunroof, he ends up dropping the open bottle of liquor, and it falls directly on Ray. It splashes everywhere. And so Ray and Julie are looking down, distracted by this open bottle. They're yelling up at him. And that's when Barry yells to them to watch out. And they all turn to look, but it's too late. And Ray ends up hitting a man walking in the road. The man's body flies over the hood of the car, slamming into Barry, who is still standing up out of the sunroof, before tumbling over the back of the car and somewhere on the road. So Ray nearly loses control of the car and he spins to a stop before Barry is able to lower himself back into the car, and the group sees that he has blood all over his face. But Barry says that it is not his blood. So Ray says they must have hit a dog. Sure, Jan. Why would you think that?
Wishful thinking. He is like, please let it be a dog.
Please, God. But it was like huge, very humanoid shaped, but he's just like grasping at straws right now.
It's like an anamorph.
I know. He's like, please have morphed into a dog by the time we get there. But Barry is more concerned about his car. So, like we said, it's a Mercedes. It is at this point badly damaged. The hood is fucked up and there's blood all over the grill. It's such bad damage that Julie is like, that did not come from a fucking dog. Like, let's be really real right now. So Barry's like, oh, well, it must have been a deer. But my thing is, Barry, you saw it coming up. You're the one that yelled for them to, like, look out. You know damn well it's not a fucking deer. But Barry doesn't really care. He is just really pissed at Ray and worried about his car, worried about what his dad is going to say. And Julie's like, hello? Just focus. If it was a deer, where is the body? So Barry is just ready to get in the car and go when Julie ends up spotting a man's blood-covered boot. And the realization washes over the group. So Barry goes to the trunk, they get some flashlights, and they start walking the road to see if there is a person there. And that's when Julie lets out a blood-curdling scream. They do find a bloodied man lying on the side of the road, face really fucked up, covered in blood. Ray checks his pulse, barely. That he says that he thinks that the man is dead. So they kind of just take Ray's word and they're like, oh, okay, this guy's dead. So Julie says they have to call the police and an ambulance, and Helen starts running off to do that, but Barry stops her. So Barry believes that the guy is dead, and he says, if we call the police, we're dead too.
Flat out.
Julie believes that it was an accident. The guy was crossing the road in the middle of the night. Ray wasn't drinking or speeding. So she's just like, we'll be okay. And Ray is like, Julie, let's think about this, okay?
Put your goddamn thinking cap on right the hell now.
In so many words. That's what he says to her.
That was the director's note.
So he's saying all of this because, remember, there's liquor all over the car because Barry dropped that open bottle of alcohol like a fucking asshole. And the car reeks. It's all over him, too. It's all over everybody. He's like, I am sober, yes, but they're never going to believe that I was the one that was driving. And Barry is smashed. It's his car. And Helen is siding with Julie at this moment. She believes that if they just tell the police the truth, the police will believe them. And Barry's like, bitch.
So you stupid too. All right.
Okay. He's like, are you dumb? I'm wasted. I'm going to go to jail. And Ray pipes in and says, actually, this is manslaughter. And no matter who takes the fall for this, we're all going to jail. So Barry's like, fuck it. Let's leave right now. And Julie is appalled. She is trying to say they need to go to the police when Barry yells at her that they don't have time for her shit. And Julie is like, okay, well, Einstein, if there's some of him on the car, there's bound to be some of the car on him. And they'll eventually trace this back to you. It's a murder, and you'll be charged with a hit and run anyway. So Barry's like, but girl, I'm 2 steps ahead of you. Let's dump this bitch in the ocean. Barry really could not care any less right now. He's like, I'm already thinking about what I'm going to eat when I get home. Like, he's trying to get the fuck out of here.
Well, okay. Is he being callous or just like being pragmatic? Like, what do you think?
It's a combination of both. So you have to say that because it is true that he is drunk. It is his car. The police may or may not believe them. But I think that it would have been worth the try. I think that that's where he's being a little callous because Ray and Barry are just saying, oh, they're not going to believe us. When there's always designated drivers. You know what I mean? And if, in fact, Ray was not speeding. And Julie, if you think that they'll be able to trace back to the car based on, like, I guess some sort of forensic evidence, then they will be able to reconstruct this accident, and they will see that Ray didn't hit him at a high speed. You know what I mean? So if it's like, if you believe in, I guess, the ability of the police to figure stuff out, then you should be able to believe in their ability to figure out that Ray wasn't in fact speeding, he wasn't in fact driving, you know? So in a way, yes, Barry is being very callous about it, especially with the, like, let's just toss him over the guardrail and, like, wash our hands of this and go get McDonald's, you know? But at the same time, I get it. He doesn't want to go to prison for something that he didn't do because he wasn't driving, and he would be the one to take the fall. I think in the book, not that it matters that much, but Barry is the only one of them at the time that is 18 years old. The other ones are still like 17 when they have this accident. And he's like, I'm an adult. I'm the only one here that is an adult. I would get in trouble, you know, and I would actually go to prison. So his reaction is very similar in the book, except big change in the book. They hit a child on a bicycle and kill him, and they keep going. It could not be any more different than what happens in the movie. But at the end of the day, it is a man's life. It's like anything that happens to you is not worse than what you just did to this man. You know what I mean?
So for me, if that was like me in that situation, I would have Barry's mindset, but then Julie's like survivor's remorse. I would be a disaster.
I understand. I cannot imagine what I would feel in that situation.
So I always think, well, maybe I would get away with it.
I know. Well, yeah, because there is always the chance that you can get away with it. I think that as far as the plan they come up with, no, I'm not trying to sound callous, but the plan that they come up with is like pretty good because they live in an ocean, a seaside town. You know, their idea is just like, oh, we'll throw them in the water. There's plenty of marine life, crabs and things. By the time they find him, the evidence is going to be gone. It was a hit and run. We have no connection to this guy. And what the hell was he doing up here anyway? You know?
Victim blaming.
I know. No, straight up. But in their defense, what they did is wrong. I don't want people to think that I would do something similar in the situation. I would call the police. But in their defense, he really was in the middle of this winding mountain road.
Up to no good.
Yes. Yeah, and we're going to get there. And it's the middle of the night. So Ray was driving, and yes, he was distracted for a moment, but he wasn't drinking. And realistically, he may have been able to avoid this person in the road if he hadn't been distracted, but I don't think they would have come away from the situation unscathed. Like, I do think that he would have had to jerk the wheel, and it would have been crazy because the guy is just around a bend in the middle of the road, you know? So they would have had to jerk the wheel. They could have lost control of the car. They could have died. They could have gotten into an accident. The guy was in a crazy place.
Yeah.
But back to it. So Barry is saying that they can dump him right over the guardrail into the ocean. It'll be weeks before they find him. And Ray is like, shit, they may not find him at all because he's like, well, the currents are strong right now. And so now at this point, Helen is like, yeah, I agree. I'm siding with Barry too. She is just like, I want to pretend this never happened.
Because I am the Croaker Queen.
Okay.
And y'all are killing my night.
Julie is at this point disgusted with everybody. And she says she doesn't want to be a part of this. And Ray tells her that he's scared too. And this is when he says he doesn't have a family like Julie or the money to get himself out of this. So he begs her to go along with this. And that's why I was like, I don't know who Ray lives with.
He probably lived in a trailer park by himself.
We don't know.
So.
Well, yeah, I mean, he says that he doesn't have a family.
That's scary, not having a family. You know, I would have to get a public defender.
Yes, and have no support.
And they would be like, plead.
Yeah. But, you know, that's the way that those things kind of happen typically. If you don't have the money, even if you didn't do anything wrong, which in this case, Ray really didn't do anything wrong. It was an accident, but he's poor, so he probably would fare worse than Barry.
Than everybody.
Yes.
First off, Barry would post bail, and Ray wouldn't.
You think that woman in that pantsuit would let her son stay in prison overnight?
She's already at the police station right now. Just making sure, because he hasn't come home yet, so she had to go check to see if anything was wrong.
Because that's what you do when you're in a pantsuit.
In her evening pantsuit.
Pantsuits on pantsuits. Y'all, we see this woman for literally, what?
6 seconds.
I really don't think that Barry would ultimately be in that much trouble. You know, I think that his parents and money would have probably gotten him out of this. But, you know, Ray is poor and apparently alone. So
he's alone. He says earlier when they're talking, he's like, "You're the only one who understands me."
Yes, he does say that. That actually comes up again, and I'm like, oh.
He's scared. He's going to go along with anything Barry says that involves him not going to jail.
Yes.
At this point, Barry is talking that shit I want to hear. So whatever he say, I'm going with it. We will throw you in the river, girl.
Stop. No, straight up. And he's looking at Julie, and he is legitimately begging her, because he's like, Julie, I'm scared. I'm going to go to jail.
And I guess her thing is, it's going to be a world worse if we get caught.
Yes. She does make a good point with that.
Everybody makes a good point to me, though. Except Helen, who doesn't really care.
Well, Helen makes a good point to me, because Helen's like, can we all just, like, forget this ever happened? And I was like, yeah, girl. Like, I want that McDonald's, too. I want to go home and get in my bed tonight. And I'm right there with you. You know, like, I get it. Helen is just kind of like flip-flopping, I guess, based on the emotions that she's feeling in the moment. She's probably in her head going through all of her hopes and dreams and things that would be ruined. I know I can't go to jail. I cannot do it. I'm not built for that. Helen doesn't look like she's built for it either.
They would flip that bitch.
She'd be the croaker queen of the penitentiary. So I do understand where all of them are coming from, but Barry has the dominant personality. So realistically, Barry is controlling the situation right now.
Yeah, he's like in total control. But a big part of him being in control is because if Ray would have been like, nah, you know, even a little bit, I think they could have come up with like a happy medium. But Julie is, and I don't know if this is the movie or just me being annoyed with Julie, but she's just really being real like, it's my way or the highway. Like, I'm right. I'm 100% right about this. And nobody wants to hear that in this time of crisis.
I understand what you're saying. Yes, so she kind of has that moral high ground stance right now. And I get it. I get what she's saying. She is looking at the situation like it is black and white. We hit a guy, we killed him, we need to go to the police, we need to own up to this. Barry is the polar opposite of her. So it's like his way or the highway with Barry too. Barry's like, no, he's already dead. There's nothing we can do. We go to the police now. All it's going to do is ruin our lives too. Ray is coming from a place of fear.
He got the skin in the game.
Yes. Ray is kind of thinking all the way through it, because Ray kind of at certain points kind of flip-flops too a little bit. Helen kind of same thing. She's scared too. She kind of flip-flops. But I think you're right, because Julie, she's like, I was the right person in that situation. Like, I was the person trying to do what was right, and therefore I am better.
But it's very easy to be the person who's right when you have no skin in the game. The boys have skin in the game. It's Barry's car and Ray was driving. You were in the passenger side.
And you weren't drinking, and you have a family, and you have money. And so I don't think that she is imagining her future being ruined right now. Ray probably would have gone to jail.
Probably.
Ray probably would have definitely gone to jail. Barry probably would have had a long legal battle ahead. I am not sure that he would have gone to prison, though. Depending on how much money his parents have, and I think they have a lot of money, I think that they could have fought that.
They wouldn't have had to fight it. His parents would have been like, you have to turn on Ray.
Straight up. Yes.
Because all they're going to have to say is that Ray was driving.
Yeah.
And Ray in his mind knows. That's why I asked you earlier. These people are my friends. These are your friends, Julie. They're not going to go down for me.
Yeah.
I'm about to go to jail. And it's just like, I understand I'm not saying Julie is wrong. Julie is correct. But sometimes
I think that we need to think about all possible outcomes. Ray is the one that would have suffered the most for this. And Julie would have been in for a rude awakening when she saw that happening to him.
So if you love me, you'll keep this murder to yourself. Because that's real love.
Yeah, according to 50 Cent. But yeah, so Barry chimes in and he tells Julie, think about your future too. The guy is already dead. If we go to the police, it's goodbye to your scholarships. It's goodbye to college, because realistically, even if Julie didn't necessarily get in trouble, like even if Julie didn't necessarily go to jail, which I doubt that she would have, her college probably would have revoked her scholarship, because this looks bad. You killed a man, so you can't come to school on a full ride now. Sorry.
You got too much shit with you, girl. Like, you can't come in here with all this.
Right.
You don't take your ass to the community college and take your ass down.
And then it's not like she's like a football star or something. They're going to be like, Julie who? We don't know her.
You ain't bringing in nothing. You just showing up taking resources. Get your ass out of here.
Exactly. So while she's thinking about it, they see a car coming. It's Max.
Oh.
I know. This fucking dude.
You ever met somebody who don't understand a hint?
That's this fucking dude.
And then you stop.
And then wait, okay, so let's just talk about it. So they pick up the guy's body and they move it over the guardrail. Then Barry leans over the guardrail pretending to throw up. And so Max stops to see what's going on. And he actually sees Barry's wrecked car. Julie is talking to him, very uncomfortable, not really sure what to say. And that's when Ray comes up, and he doesn't like Ray. So Max doesn't like any of these people because he really is in love with Julie.
Ray walks up and Ray is like, okay, what's up? What can I do for you? And he's like, you can wipe that my shit don't stink grin off your face. And Ray's like, will do.
Okay, will do. Well, yeah, because Ray is just trying to
get him out of here.
Yeah, just get him the fuck out of here. Like, I'm not trying to argue with you. The last thing I want you to do is, like, look around too hard.
Or get out this car.
Or get out of the car. Yeah, he's really trying to roast the fuck out of Ray right now.
Because he's a short man sitting in his truck feeling tall. So he getting real fucking mouthy. But when you have to hop down off that step and you chest the eye to people, then you ain't got nothing to say.
Barry would have wore his ass out. Because Barry's already crazy heightened right now.
Already.
Barry would have gotten a real murder charge on his hands because he wants so badly to beat up Julie right now, but he can't. So he's like, I need to take this shit out on somebody.
Bring your little ass over here.
He would have boxed the fuck out of Max. Poor Max. But luckily, they are able to get Max to leave. So we cut to the crew. They're driving down this pier. They have loaded the man's body into Barry's trunk, which, if they didn't have forensics before, they're definitely fucking gonna have forensics now. I was like, this is insane. Why would you do this? But they put this bloody man in Barry's trunk, and when they get there, Barry and Ray take him out of the car, and they carry him down the pier to throw him into the water. Before they do, Julie looks the man over. She sees that he has a tattoo on his arm. It's a heart that has Susie written in it. She tells him that they should check his wallet to see who he is, just to know.
Because they already killed him. They might as well rob him.
Wait, isn't that what happened? That's what happens in Scary Movie.
I mean, we already killed him.
We might as well rob his ass. Well, she just wants to, like, see who he is, which...
It's not good.
Yeah, Helen's like, Julie, I don't want to know who this man is. I don't want to know anything about this man. You know what I mean? Like, what we're doing is already hard enough. If you find out that this guy's like a single father with 5 kids under the age of 10 and that he was their sole provider, You're already going to be feeling guilty. It's going to haunt you for the rest of your life. And then if you find out that this guy is like a saint, I mean, that might really push you over the edge. If you've already made this decision, it's better to just distance yourself from this person. So Barry's like, I don't want to fucking know either. He just asked Ray to help him throw the guy's body in the water. But now Ray is like, I don't think I can. And Barry's like, we've gone over this. You already fucking agreed. Ray irritated me in this scene, but I was like, Barry, if you don't kick that man in that fucking water, like, you're a quarterback.
Act like you gotta lay on the rest.
Ray, just fucking toss this man. Kick his ass. And the guy is big, but like, come on now. So they start arguing because Ray starts saying some shit like it's not too late to go to the police. And Barry starts losing his fucking mind, which understood.
His buzz is over and he's hungry. And he's like, I'm ready to eat now. So we need to go home.
Well, he's like, Ray, we already talked about this. We already got here. I already loaded this man's heavy ass into my fucking car. We're here. It's 100% too late to go to the police now. Ray, we've driven him all the way to a secondary location with the plans of throwing him in the ocean. They're definitely not going to believe a fucking word we say at this point. So that's when Helen steps in and she's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll help him. So she goes to help Barry toss the body in the water, but as she's lifting the man up, the guy fucking sits up and grabs the crown on Helen's head, and he's really like wrenching her. So they kind of hit him a few times, they get him off of her, and they throw this very much alive man into the water. But he was still holding on to Helen's crown as he's sinking below the water. So Helen screams about it, and Barry jumps into the water after it.
He has to.
He has to. And it's not just because of his affinity for Helen.
No, it's straight up like, we might as well go to jail.
Right! This is the Croaker Queen crown. They're gonna fucking know, because I think they recycle the same one every year. Like, she has to give this crown back. If they find this guy with this crown lodged in his mitts, they're gonna be like, case closed. We know exactly what the fuck happened here. But he jumps into the water, he swims down, and he ends up finding the guy kind of like standing on the bottom, still holding the crown. So Barry tries pulling it from the guy's hands, but the guy has a pretty strong grip on it. Just then the guy opens his eyes, Barry screams, but he is able to get the crown from him, and he swims up, and the guy watches him swim up. I mean, he's clearly not dead. And so if I was the group, would you be feeling differently about this whole thing now? Because we didn't actually kill him.
Well, now we did.
Well, Julie's like, okay, we didn't hit him with the hit and run. But she's like, we straight up murdered him by throwing him in the water. And I guess I'm just like, why do you think that? He's still alive. So first of all, I'd be mad at Ray because...
You said that he was dead, you dumbass.
Yes, you said that he died. We could have avoided all of this fucking rigmarole. But you said he was dead. He's not... He was alive when you threw him in the water, and then he was alive when Barry went down. Like, he could just get out of the water. You know what I mean?
I'm surprised he didn't get out of the water.
Well, he does get out of the water. That's what the whole movie is about. He does fucking get out of the water. So I guess my thing is, like, I don't understand why it ruins their lives. Like, they're like, oh, we murdered this guy.
Ruins their lives. What you using? Pronouns? Because it ruined Julie's life. Because everybody else went the fuck on.
Well, okay. Kind of. So we're going to get there because Julie does take it the hardest, but everybody...
Because she wanted to.
Yes.
Because they gave her something to do.
Straight up. And I don't even want to, like, joke about it. Straight up. Because Julie... Girl, shut the fuck up. Put some fucking blush on. But okay. I just felt like it was kind of crazy to me that I was like, well, you clearly didn't kill this man. So it's like you're carrying all this crazy guilt and stuff. The guy was alive, and I guess they're like, oh, we murdered him by pushing him in the water. But I don't know why you would think that, because he was strong enough to sit up and fucking jerk the shit out of Helen. You don't think that he can get out of this water? I don't know. In my opinion, I would have felt
Relief.
when he sat up, I would have felt relief, because I would have been like, oh, fuck, thank God he's not dead. I guess after that, you would have to be concerned about if he could identify you or not, if he saw you, like that. It's a different set of concerns, but you didn't murder someone. So they never consider the fact that the guy was probably able to swim up. But they help Barry out of the water, and they're heading back to the car, and Barry forces them all to make a pact to never, under any circumstances known to God, speak about this ever again. They need to take this to their graves. Helen and Ray agree immediately, obviously, but Julie is very hesitant. So Barry does the only logical thing and manhandles her. He grabs her by the throat and pushes her against the car, and he tells her that she needs to swear out loud. Fucking say it. And Ray is so fucking Magoo, because he doesn't do anything to Barry in this moment. But he's just like, unhand her. But he doesn't, like, Barry's really jecking the shit out of her right now. And her boyfriend's just like, hey, you stop that. Barry had been salivating to choke the shit out of Julie. He knew he was going to have to. He was like, it's only a matter of time before I have to yank this hoe. And so he does, and Ray doesn't do anything to help her. And so she's pissed at Ray, and I don't blame her.
Ray is like, if he didn't choke her, I was going to choke her, because she was going to have to swear to this.
I didn't like that. If somebody started choking me and my boyfriend didn't do anything to help me, we're not dating anymore. I hope that you know that. Like, dead body aside, killing somebody in a vehicular manslaughter aside, we're not dating anymore. You just let this man choke the shit out of me. And Helen's just standing back there like...
Ray and Helen were like, why couldn't you just say it?
Because at this point, Julie, like, I know that you feel horrible about this. That's understandable. I get it. It's over. It's done. It's happened. So just fucking swear. Just swear so we can go home and get this fucking McDonald's. Please. But finally, Julie says the words. She swears it. So Barry climbs in the car while Julie starts to cry, and Ray just tells her that it's all gonna be okay. And she looks at Ray like he's a real piece of shit. As they drive off, the camera pans down, and we end up seeing that medallion from earlier in the movie that the guy was holding when he was sitting up on the cliff. It's sitting now on the dock, suggesting that this is the guy that they killed. So then we cut to 1 year later, and a very rough-looking Julie is at college, but she is supposed to be heading home for the summer. She doesn't want to go back, but her roommate tells her to get her pale, chalky, corpse-looking ass in the car so she can drive her home. So then we cut to Julie arriving home, and her mom greets her, a little taken aback by her very pasty appearance, because she really does look bad. They did a lot of work making Jennifer Love Hewitt look dead, because she's supposed to be going through a lot. Like, the guilt is supposed to be, like, eating her alive, essentially.
So they threw in overalls.
Stop! Yeah, so they put her in overalls, and they get her bangs are all stringy, and they probably put some, like, lighter foundation on her to just make her look really pale. So as her and her mom are sitting down for dinner, Julie is sulking, barely eating anything, and her mom asks her if she's on drugs because she looks like death. And Julie's like, ouch. And that's when her mom tells her that she got a piece of mail, but she's like, it's not your report card because that came in last week, and apparently it was dog shit. Then her mom concernedly asks, what happened to my daughter? You went away to school, you don't call, you don't visit, you're failing. That was Julie's thing. She was
smart.
Yeah, she was very smart. She got a scholarship to school.
She's gonna be a lawyer.
Yes. So Julie isn't giving a response. So our mom just walks away, but on her way out, she says that Julie's dad is probably rolling in his grave. That upsets Julie. That's when Julie goes over and she opens this piece of mail that her mom brought to her, and it's a note, and all it says is, "I know what you did last summer," in black block letters. She doesn't know who sent it. There's no postmark, there's no return address. She stays up all night just kind of staring at it, contemplating what it could mean. When outside of her house, she hears some noise. So she goes to close and lock her windows because she's scared. And as she's closing the window, we as the audience hear that metal chiming noise from that medallion that we saw at the beginning of the movie and that we saw sitting on the dock where they disposed of the man's body. So then we cut to the next day, and Julie drives over to the Shivers department store. So this is the store that is owned by Helen's family. And Julie runs into her sister Elsa. She asks for Helen's New York phone number, which Elsa finds extremely laughable. She tells Julie that Helen doesn't have a New York number. She is, in fact, working in the store in the women's fragrance section. They then pan over to Helen, and when Julie goes to talk to her, she tells Julie that she went to New York for a while, but it didn't work out. And this is suggestive of Helen also not doing well after the accident. She is
Smoking.
she is smoking, which is crazy. I think that this is supposed to be like Helen's downfall as well. This is like the manifestation of Helen. She doesn't look as bad as Julie.
No.
Because Sarah Michelle Gellar's like, no. But this is her, going through something as well. So that's when Julie shows Helen the note. They discuss the note, just kind of unsure of who could have sent it. And Helen's like, we were very careful that night. And Julie was like, were we? And I was also like, were y'all? Because y'all were doing a lot. Y'all dragged this body up and down this fucking mountain, contaminating everything. The man was alive. He took your crown. He could have pulled out some of your hair. You don't fucking know. So then Helen asks, well, has Barry seen the note?
She just wants to see Barry.
Kinda, yeah, right? So they head to Barry's house. It's a huge mansion on the water.
Plantation.
Well, it screams money. And there's a woman in a pantsuit inside, so you know that Barry is rich. And apparently Helen and Barry broke up after the events of last year. Barry is not too happy to see them show up at his house, but he invites them up. Unannounced. But he does invite them up. So they show him the note, and he isn't impressed. He just thinks that it's a bunch of bullshit. He really isn't sure it has anything to do with the man that they hit. And Julie's like, Barry, come on now. Put your fucking thinking cap on. I may have done a lot of things last summer, but we killed a man. He was still alive when we dumped him in the water. It was kind of a big deal. I'm pretty sure that's what this note is talking about. But Barry is still very testy about the whole thing. He's just as testy as he was back then today. So he's yelling at Julie, and Helen has to kind of rein them in. And that's when Julie tells them that the guy that they killed, his name was David Egan. Apparently, he was found 3 weeks after the accident, after he was caught in a fisherman's net very near where they dumped the body. She said that it was in the newspaper, and the police called it an accidental drowning.
Good.
That's great, Julie, for y'all. But Julie is like, y'all can keep calling it an accident if you want, but he died because of us. So that's when Barry asks if Ray has seen the note. And we learned that Julie and Ray also broke up last year, and she hasn't seen him since, which is not surprising at all. So Barry comes to the determination that it must be Max messing with them because he was there that night. He did see them. So all three of them head down to the docks where Max is working as a fisherman. Barry asks to speak to Max in private, and when they head to another room, Barry ends up slamming Max against some blocks of ice, and he tells him that they got his letter. Max has no idea what Barry is talking about, but Barry is coming on very strong, and he threatens Max with a hook and tells him that he'll kill him if he doesn't back off. He then walks out, and Max is pissed. Max ends up standing up, and he grabs the hook, and he yells after Barry that he's going to call the cops on him.
He's going to call the cops on his college quarterback ass. It's like, bitch.
Yes. But Barry's gone. He's very much not concerned at all about what Max is talking about.
He said what he said.
He's like, I did what I came to do. I'm going home. So then we cut back to Barry and the girls, and they're leaving the docks when they run into Ray, who is working there as a fisherman, which Barry is really condescending about. I didn't like that. That's when Ray asks to talk to Julie alone. So Helen's like, oh, I gotta go back to work anyway, so bye. Julie tells Ray about the note and about how Barry believes that Max sent it. But Julie is not too convinced about that. So that's when Ray tries to apologize to Julie for the events of last summer, telling her that he knows that she holds him responsible. And Julie says that no, on the contrary, she's like, I'm responsible for my own actions. So she doesn't blame him, which, yes, that is the right response because you didn't do the right thing either. But she also doesn't want to know him. And that really hurts Ray. Then Julie just runs off, literally, runs away. So when we cut back to Max, he is working hard. He's like processing some crabs in this area. And we get a shot of him jamming that hook into a block of ice. He burns himself. And then we see him walk past that block of ice again. But now we see that the hook is missing. He's continuing to load these crabs into these boiling pots. So there's a lot of steam everywhere and visibility is pretty poor. So that's when all of a sudden a man in a fisherman's slicker and hat comes walking up in front of him, and he rams the hook under Max's chin. He hooks him under the chin, and he then drags him off over these boiling pots, leaving this huge streak of blood. And that's the first on-screen kill.
Why?
So I actually read a theory about this.
Good.
Well, first of all, there are two reasons. The first reason is, I think I may have had this in the fun facts, or I think that I was just gonna like mention it now. Max's death was not originally in the movie. They did not have any deaths until much later, and we'll get there, but like much later in the movie, because if we look at what the next death is, like you and I know, it's not for a while. The director and Kevin Williamson, they were like, that's a really, really long time with no action. The fisherman starts tormenting Julie and her friends, and he's sending these notes and things, but he's like, well, if the fisherman is only talk and the audience never sees him do anything, then there's never any real sense of danger. He just keeps saying that he's gonna kill them, he's gonna hurt them. I know what you did last summer, but he's like, we don't know what he's capable of. He's just like a boogeyman in the background. So they were like, we have to put in a kill earlier in the movie. One, so the audience doesn't get bored, because this is supposed to be kind of like a slasher. But then two, because we need to show that the fisherman is an actual dangerous person, that he will harm them in some way. There has to be some stakes for us to be scared for the protagonist. If you look at it like in the movie, though, I think that the fisherman kills Max because
he wanted them to know, look, it ain't them, and I'm coming for your ass.
Well, that is a good theory. That is a good theory. I was going to say that when Barry is leaving, he has pushed Max in a way. Max is really angry. And so this theory is that because Max is threatening to call the police, the fisherman doesn't want the police involved in any way because he has this whole intricate plan that he's planned out for these kids. He wants to be the one to torment them, to torture them, hurt them, kill them. He wants to do all that. He's like, if the police get involved in this Max Barry situation, he's like, that could throw in a wrench because the Barry could get arrested, the police could follow him, they could start asking questions, Julie could break at any moment.
Any moment.
Any moment. And so I think the fisherman's like, I don't want Max to be involved at all. So he's like, I think I just need to like eliminate him so he's not like a ticking time bomb. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That was like another theory. But either way, Max is dead. So then we cut to that night to Barry. He's driving his car to the gym. And after his workout, Barry takes a shower and notices that someone else is in the gym. He thought that he was alone. He's hearing some noises. And it's pretty late at night, too. When he gets out of the shower, he walks back to his locker and he sees a Polaroid sticking out of the door. It's a picture of his car in front of the gym, and on the back of the Polaroid is written the words, "I know." So while Barry is looking around, we as the audience also hear that metal chime from that medallion. So Barry walks all around this gym. He's looking for whoever could have left this photo, but he doesn't find anyone. When he circles back to his locker, now he finds it wide open, and he sees that his Letterman jacket is missing. So he quickly gets dressed, and he heads to the front desk and asks if anyone else is working out in the gym that night. And the owner tells him, no, it's just the two of them there. Just then, Barry hears his car start out front. He runs out, and someone is in his car and starts speeding away in reverse while Barry is chasing it. The car suddenly stops, and Barry believes that it's Max, but he can't see into the car because it's too dark. So just then, the headlights pop on, and the car starts speeding in order to run Barry over. So Barry is running in zigzags, but he ends up getting cornered, and the person ends up flooring it and hits Barry. He ends up flipping on top of the hood of the car as the person drives straight through a wall, some glass, a lot of fucking barrels and shit, and then slams on the brake, which ends up throwing Barry off of the car onto the ground. Now, Barry is not dead, but he is really injured, and the person driving the car, which we can see is the same fisherman in the slicker from when Max was killed. He gets out and he walks over to Barry. So Barry's lying on the ground, hurt, trying to scream for help when the fisherman stands over him and slowly pulls out the hook. And Barry is left crying and apologizing before the screen cuts to black.
How didn't the goddamn gym attendant see that?
I don't know. I have to assume that he just doesn't give a fuck. I don't know. All of this is very loud, too.
He was like, we're by ourselves. And the car starts. Oh, yeah, somebody did just leave.
He doesn't even acknowledge that. He is reading the most interesting magazine that's ever been written because he's like, I don't fucking know. He's just saying anything because clearly you're not here alone, right? Like, obviously. But then I was like, Barry just accepts that answer when Barry, you know, there's somebody else here. Somebody took your jacket and put a Polaroid in your locker. What are you talking about right now? But we cut to a hospital where Barry has been admitted. He's banged up, he has a broken arm, but he is alive. The fisherman did not kill him. So Julie, Helen, and Ray arrive to the hospital, and they're there to talk to him. And Barry tells them he could not see the guy's face. All he knows It was a guy in a slicker, and Julie at this point is insisting that they go to the police and come clean because somebody tried to kill Barry, and the secret is ruining their lives. It's killing them. So Barry believes that if the fisherman wanted him dead, he could have definitely killed him that night. So he must just be fucking with them. And he tells Julie that they won't have any lives left if they go to the police because what they did was murder. Instead, he suggests they find the person who's doing this and talk to him, which Helen agrees. She believes that it must be a friend or family member of the person they hit, David Egan. So they just need to find them, talk to them, and figure out what they want. So as they're leaving the hospital, Ray is still convinced that it's Max. Julie still isn't convinced, and she takes the opportunity to play him and run off again because Ray is using a lot of like we and us language, and she's like,
Ray.
there is no we, there is no us. Don't stop fucking saying that. She's like, I really would rather you weren't here anyway. Barry's the one that asked if you saw the note. I was just going to forget that you existed. But then we cut to Julie's house. Julie and Helen are doing some research about David Egan, and they find a bunch of articles about David, and one of them is about an accident that he was involved in, and it also involved a girl named Susie Willis. So she died of drowning 2 summers ago when David, who had been driving, crashed into the water, and David escaped unharmed, but Susie was trapped and she died. David and Susie had been engaged when she died, and that's when Julie remembers seeing the name Susie tattooed on the man's arm. Then they find David's obituary and they find out his mother and sister's name and then where they live, so they decide to go see them.
In the sticks.
Yes, in the sticks, in the middle of fucking nowhere. So when they arrive to the Egan's very large rundown house in the middle of nowhere, they meet David's country sister Missy. I don't know.
Is Pharaoh the word you want to use?
Dante, I couldn't figure out what word I wanted to use. So I was like, isn't that she's country? Something is very weird about Missy. Like, I'm not trying to be a bitch, but Missy's mad alarming to be around. I don't know.
She's a Pharaoh.
I guess you could say she's feral. Like, I was like, is she wearing shoes? I can't tell. But she's also really, like, socially awkward. But they get to the house and they tell Missy that their car broke down and they need to use her phone. So once inside the house, Julie sends Helen to fake call AAA while Julie talks to Missy to probe her for information. Missy ends up telling Julie about David's death and how their mother is in a home because she couldn't handle what happened to David. She also tells Julie that she lives alone and that things just haven't been the same since David died. And that's when Julie looks down at some old photos of Missy and David, and Missy looks very normal in these photos. She looks happy with her brother. It's really the total opposite of what she looks like. She looks just as bad now as Julie does. Now Helen comes after pretending to make this phone call, and now she is trying to pump Missy for information. She pretends that she remembered David because we find out that they all went to the same high school, just different classes. Missy is a good bit older than them, and David was only, I think, slightly older than them.
David and Elsa. That's 92.
Yeah, so David is Helen's sister Elsa's age. They were in the same class. So class of 92. And we know that they're graduating in 97. So there wouldn't have been
Any crossover.
Yeah, any crossover. But she is pretending that she remembers him. But she's asking Missy about this imaginary friend whose name she supposedly can't remember. She's like, oh yeah, David used to hang out with this guy all the time. What was his name? And Missy said she didn't know a lot of David's friends because David was younger than her. But she does remember one guy who stopped by to pay his respects after David died. And apparently they were sweet on each other very briefly, but it didn't work out.
She made that up.
Well, okay, well, we'll get there. We don't know if she made it up or not. She has this twinkle in her eye, like she did really like him, so I don't know. But she says that his name was Dante. Billy Blue. And I was like, that's...
His name was George Glass.
Glass! George Glass!
George Tropicana. Is he Cuban?
Oh,
Ew.
is he Cuban?
George Glass.
She's like, no, I mean, George Glass. That's funny. I've never heard of a George Glass in our school. That's what it's giving right now. Billy Blue is not a real name, Missy. Girl.
That's why I said she made it up.
Well, if I was Missy, I would have been like, I don't remember his name. Because that's obviously not a real name, Missy. Come on now, girl. So that's when Julie says, she's like, we need to leave right now. But Missy doesn't really want them to leave because she's lonely and she doesn't have anybody to talk to out here.
She's so lonely, y'all. And it's so sad.
That is really sad. Like, this is such a very, very short part of the movie. It's like you really don't spend a lot of time with Missy at all. But when you really think about it, like when you see her in this place that she lives in, it's a really big house, but their dad died. Her brother died very young. It drove her mother insane. Her mom is in a home not in the area, and now she's in this big house on her own. I mean, it's really depressing. And she's like, she doesn't get any visitors. And she's so starved for conversation that she's trying to get these two girls that she doesn't know at all to stay.
Complete strangers.
Total strangers to stay and talk to her. It's very sad. And she fell for an imaginary man named Billy Blue. I don't know. My heart really sank when I saw poor Missy.
Yeah, and he did a great job playing this character that could have easily been nothing.
I agree. And I think that the director said that he thought that Anne Heche did a really good job, that the role really resonated with her because Anne Heche actually had a sibling that had died in a car accident. So she really did have an idea of what that pain felt like.
And then she ended up dying in an accident.
Yeah, in a really cruel twist of fate. Yeah, Anne Heche ends up dying in an accident. Very sad. Rest in peace, Anne Heche, but she did do a really good job. Like, she had not a lot of screen time at all, but she is a memorable part of the movie. But Julie rushes out, and they say that they don't want to miss AAA. So in the car, Julie is upset because she feels like not only did they kill David, but they ruined the lives of everyone that David knew because his mom is in a home, his sister is clearly thrown off now. But Helen tries to comfort her, and she's telling Julie, Julie, I don't think that we're that powerful. I think that they're both right in this situation. But as they're having this conversation, Missy jump scare style pops up at the window.
All of us.
Because, Missy, what the hell are you doing, Missy? A simple knock would have sufficed. She's like, hey! So they're obviously terrified, and she's just like, oh, Helen, you forgot your cigarettes.
Girl, keep them.
I know, she's like, oh my god, I do not want these cigarettes. One thing that we didn't mention, she obviously doesn't call her Helen because the two girls use fake names when they get there.
Angela Lansbury and Jodie Foster.
Yes. So Helen is Jodie Foster, Silence of the Lambs. Julie is Angela Lansbury, Murder, She Wrote. So, yes, so they do use fake names when they go see her. But they're sitting in the car. Missy pops up, and she notices that the girls got their car started. And Julie's like, yeah, started right up. And then Missy's like in the middle of saying like, oh, isn't it funny how that happened? When Julie practically runs over her feet trying to leave. Missy's literally hanging onto the car. Dante, stop.
Because
It's not meant to be funny. It's not supposed to be fucking funny. Missy is literally hanging onto the car, and Julie's like flooring and dragging her.
Because you know how people like Misty, they don't know when to be quiet. She's ready to go.
So Julie basically is like, I didn't want to talk to you in the first place. And Missy's like, please, somebody talk to me. And so it ends in the most awkward fucking pull off I've ever seen. I'm surprised she didn't roll over Missy's feet because Missy was literally still attached to the car as Julie started to drive off. So after she screeches off, leaving gravel in Missy's face, Missy watches them leave. It's really weird the way she's watching them, and I'm sure in her head she's thinking, well, fuck. Bitch, I was still talking.
But will you say anything important?
Stop. Missy's like, I'm doing my best. I haven't spoken to someone in a year.
She just talked to Billy Blue.
Oh, you're right. She did. She was sweet on Billy Blue.
She's so sad. Tragic character.
Tragic. But then we cut to that night, and Julie is dropping Helen off at home. And as they're talking, Helen suggests that maybe David wanted to die because of Susie's death on the same road 1 year earlier. She's like, I mean, he was up there in the middle of the road at night, which is not a horrible theory.
Right. It's not that far-fetched.
Yeah, it's not that far-fetched. It's plausible. And Julie is just like, yeah, if that helps you sleep at night. And Helen is like, girl, I didn't hit him. And if I'm not mistaken, were we not all there that night? Like, you're not better than me in this situation, Julie. But Julie is trying to like play the fuck out of her. So her feelings are hurt, and she asks Julie what happened between them. She says, we used to be best friends, and she misses Julie. And Julie is very, very cold towards her, and she says that they used to be a lot of things. So Helen's like, okay. She gets out. Julie drives off.
That was hurtful.
I thought that was hurtful too.
Because that's being very vulnerable.
Yeah, no, I totally understand what you're saying. Yes, it was really big of Helen to even start this conversation with Julie.
To tell you, I miss you.
Yeah. Especially after Julie had just said if that will help you sleep at night, because she's already being very, very cold towards Helen.
They probably didn't talk the whole ride.
I know. And now they're sitting outside of her house, which in my opinion is the absolute best time to have conversation. I love the like sitting outside the house dropping off and you don't have anywhere to be conversation. But she's just trying to talk to her and Julie doesn't even look at her. She's doing just more than ignoring her.
You might as well spit on me.
Basically.
This is what we were saying earlier. It's just like, this is the story you want to have. You want to be the one who was sad about it.
Yes, like you want to be the one that was right. Like you have the moral high ground. And everybody else involved isn't even worth your time anymore. You know what I mean? Y'all all did this together. And Helen was just doing, I think, the best that she could do at the time. Because remember, they're all kids. They were teenagers.
They're children.
They're still teenagers, yes. They were just graduating high school. So 17, 18 years old. Helen's like, I just didn't want my life to be ruined. That's a very teenage way to think about the situation. Barry, I can understand giving the smoke to, like, you're really pissed at Barry, but like Helen, I hated the way that she treated Helen.
Thankfully, Helen didn't touch the car because she was able to pull off without getting hit.
Thank God Helen didn't try to lean in and talk to her at the window, or else Helen would have got dragged, just like Missy. And realistically, as we're going to continue this, Julie is so
self-righteous.
She is very self-righteous, but she's so ignorant to just everything that's going on. She has gotten this idea and she's built this whole narrative around it. And as we continue, we'll see that you don't know anything, Julie. And so you're just kind of reacting this way and you're throwing all these things out and you're making these moves based on very, very little information. Because for all you know, David Egan did go up there to die. Why would he be in the middle of the road, in the middle of the night, in this area where his fiance died the year prior? You know what I mean? And let's keep going because we're going to get to a point where she goes back to talk to Missy about it. And she's so like indignant with Missy. And I'm like, Julie, you have no idea what is going on, but she is really sticking to this narrative that she's created in her mind.
And I'm the only one who cares.
Exactly. Yes.
That's the most important part of it, is that I'm the only one who gives a damn. Because
Yes.
I am Julie James.
And that makes me better than everyone else. So after Julie drives off, Helen gets in the house and she heads to the kitchen. She's getting something to drink. And we see a shadow of somebody enter the house behind her, but she does not notice this. When the camera cuts to this person, it is the fisherman who has just walked through her front door. Because I guess she doesn't lock her doors.
It was a small town.
There's a lot happening right now. Lock the door. But alas, so he comes in the house behind her. So then he takes out his hook and he ends up sneaking upstairs and he enters Helen's room just before she turns up the stairs to head into her room as well. Like she just misses seeing him. He then hides in her closet and he's watching Helen while Helen unknowingly goes through just like her nightly routine. That's when Helen's sister Elsa comes into her room to tell her that she needs her at the store, the Shivers department store, at 10 a.m. tomorrow. But Helen informs Elsa that she is going to be in the parade tomorrow, so she can't. And Elsa's so fucking prickly. She pulls that, like, well, Dad left me in charge of the store, and I say you need to be there at 10. And Helen is like, bitch, it's tradition for the previous year's queen to ride in the parade prior to that year's pageant. There's nothing that I can do about it. So get the fuck out of my face. So then Helen starts brushing her very long blonde hair. And Elsa, who really gives hater vibes, she comments on how so very pathetic Helen's obsession with her hair is. I guess she doesn't like that Helen cares about her appearance. That's when Helen climbs into bed pretty over.
Today.
Yeah, she's getting played left and right. I'd be pissed too. So the next morning, Helen wakes up and she notices that her Croaker Queen crown is sitting on her head, which is strange. And when she takes it off, she notices that a good bit of her hair is coming off with it. So she sits up and she starts pulling at her hair, and that's when she notices that it's coming out in clumps. While she was sleeping, someone hacked off her hair. When she jumps up to look at herself in the mirror, she sees the word soon scrawled across it in lipstick. So Helen screams no over and over again, and she smashes the mirror with her fist. So that's when we cut to Julie, and she's getting a call. It's presumably letting her know what's happened to Helen. So Julie rushes out to head that way. While she's in her car, Julie starts hearing some like tapping noises, and she's looking around, but she doesn't see anything. But the tapping persists, and she realizes that it must be coming from her trunk. So she pulls over, and when she goes to open the trunk, she finds Max's dead body wearing Barry's Letterman jacket lying in her trunk, and they're completely covered in live crabs. So that's where all the tapping sounds were coming from. There are crabs going in and out of his mouth. I mean, it's like dozens of crabs in here. So Julie is hysterical and she starts screaming, panicking. She almost gets hit by a car coming down the road, but she ends up slamming her trunk and then just running the rest of the way to Helen's house. When she arrives to Helen's house, Barry is there comforting Helen, and all three of them head back to Julie's car. So on the way, Julie is explaining what she saw, and Barry opens the trunk to find absolutely nothing.
Not even a whiff.
Not only is Max not there, but there's not even any like dirt in the trunk. It's immaculate. It's like it's been vacuumed. Even the tools that she has laying in there, like nothing's even like soggy, right? Because wouldn't those crabs be really fucking soggy, salty, funky?
You think he put a tarp underneath them and then just picked the tarp up?
He must have. Because the trunk her trunk is more immaculate than my trunk, and I've never had a dead body covered in crabs in it. And so Barry looks at her like, bitch.
He was following her?
Yeah, I do think that he must be following her. We know that he watches them, and we'll talk about that later when we get there, but we know that he does stalk them. And we've heard things like remember he was outside of her house and we heard the chime of the medallion, so we know that he is watching her. So I do think that he was like following her today. She got out of her car, she ran, and somehow he quickly got all of these crabs out of her car. So Julie is like, no, he was definitely there. And Barry is like, well, did the crabs carry him away? And she's upset because Barry doesn't believe her, which is like, her trunk is so clean.
Clean.
I can't blame Barry for like not necessarily believing her, because like a trunk full of crabs is something that's going to leave some kind of trace.
Right.
There's nothing. There's no mud, nothing. But Helen, who has gone through a very traumatic hair chopping, she's like, Julie, I do believe you. But that's when Julie says the fisherman must have come and taken the body, which does not make sense to Barry, because he's like, why? For what reason? And Julie's like, Barry, nothing he's done so far makes any sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah, like he's clearly just fucking with us. Like there is no rhyme or reason to any of this that we can see. So then she says that, and they definitely can't go to the police now. He knows that. So now he's just out there watching them and waiting. And that's when Julie delivers this line that has really like become synonymous with the movie. She stands in the middle of the road and she holds out her arms and she yells into the abyss. She's like, what are you waiting for? Huh? What are you waiting for? And she's like spinning in a circle. Climactic scene. Well, when they walk back to Helen's house, they get there and they find Ray there. And Barry sees him and immediately on sight clocks him in the face with the cast that he has on his arm.
On site.
Because at this point, Barry believes that Ray is behind all of this. Because he's like, hello, Ray's a fisherman. And we know that poor people do crazy stuff.
Poor people are criminals.
That's what my mom always says. And so Ray says, no, he's after me too. I got a letter. And Barry's like, this bitch. He finds that very laughable because he's like, I got run over. Helen got her hair chopped off. Julie got a body in her trunk. And Ray, you got a letter? That's balanced.
Do you think he was trying to frame Ray? Or he was just kind of like, Ray's a fellow fisherman. So.
No, I think he was going to kill Ray too. I think he was going to kill all of them. I don't think he wanted any of them to live.
Well, it's like, he really didn't like Barry. Because he like tried to kill Barry.
Yes.
Helen, he was just like, you're not as bad as Barry, but you're not as sad as I would like you to be. Cut your hair. And then Julie, he was just like, they already think you're crazy, so I'm just some weird shit with you. But then with Ray, he was kind of like, what should I do with him?
Well, so this is a point that they make in the book. In the book, there is no fisherman. There's no fisherman. They don't live in like a sea town. None of this stuff exists. Nobody dies. But they are hurt. It isn't for a lack of trying, because the person that's stalking them in the book, who just it happens to be the half brother of the 10-year-old boy that they killed instead of like a fisherman, that person does legitimately try to kill Barry, shoots him in the stomach, almost paralyzes him. He legitimately tries to kill Helen. He pretended to be her friend. She comes home, he's in her apartment, and he traps her there. She ends up jumping out of a window to save herself so she doesn't die. And then he ends up legitimately trying to kill Julie. He tries to strangle her to death, just straight up, tries to choke her. He'd been pretending to be Julie's boyfriend because, like in the movie, Julie and Ray are broken up in the book because she just can't stand to be around him after the accident. And so that's when she starts dating this new guy named Bud, or that's who he's pretending to be. And he tries to kill her. She is saved at the end of the day by Ray. And so I think that she asks him, Barry got shot. Helen fell out of a window trying to escape this guy. He tried to choke me. You'd interacted with him. Why didn't he hurt you? And Ray's whole thing is he did try to hurt me in the worst way possible. He tried to take you from me. He knew that I wouldn't be able to live without you, Julie. And so that's like the theme in the book. And it is the same way in the movies too. Ray is very, very much devoted to Julie. He really loves her. He never stops. And I think that maybe, and I'm not totally sure, because as we know, like Kevin Williamson obviously was a fan of the book. That's why he wrote the screenplay for this a long, long time ago. Like he just wrote it without even having any idea of who would pick it up, who would actually develop the movie. He just really wanted to write the screenplay. I think that what happens is I do think that he took that theme and just moved it over into the movie. I think that what he's trying to show us is that the fisherman's whole thing is I'll hurt Ray by hurting Julie first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that he probably would have killed Ray anyway. Like at the end, I think he wanted them all dead. But I do think that that might be the theme that Kevin Williamson is going with is like, oh, well, the worst way to hurt Ray, to torment him before he's killed, is to not wreck his car, hit him, to not cut his hair, because those are things that Barry and Helen care about, really superficial things. The only thing that Ray cares about is Julie. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. That was good. That makes a lot of sense.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what I was thinking about it. Because Barry is really like, you got a letter? That's a joke to us because Barry's arm is broken. Helen's hair is gone.
Somebody broke into our house.
That's the worst thing, is that somebody was in your room when you were sleeping and got close enough to you with a pair of scissors to cut your hair off and write on your mirror, and you had no idea. You never woke up. He could have easily killed her. And that's really really traumatic for Helen. And so yeah, getting a letter perils in the face of like what the other people are going through. But I think that that's what they were getting at, is like, okay, hurt Julie is the way to hurt Ray.
I wonder, like, this was like right after Scream. So I was thinking, like, movie wise, was he trying to paint that doubt, like, oh, it could be Ray?
Yeah, I think that maybe Ray was a possible red herring. I think that he was kind of doing some stuff like that. But one thing, and I was going to talk about this in the fun facts, Kevin Williamson wrote this movie way before he wrote Scream. He started writing this movie in the 80s, early 90s, and he had it and he shopped it around to a lot of people, but nobody wanted to make it. They weren't interested in the slasher because they felt like the slasher was dead by the early 90s, which it was. And then Scream came out and it totally revitalized the genre. It brought the genre back from the brink of death. And because Scream was such a hit, because it was so hot, he was like, okay, well, I guess I might as well shop around I Know What You Did Last Summer again. And then people were so jocked out behind Kevin Williamson at the time because he was like fresh off of Scream that they were like, they would have done literally anything that Kevin Williamson brought them. And he brought them this screenplay. And so, of course, they greenlit it and they made the movie. And so a lot of people do compare Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. People compare every single thing that came out after Scream to Scream, as they should, because people started making stuff to mimic the success of Scream. But realistically, Kevin Williamson did write this movie before he wrote Scream. So that is something to note. But yes, so I'd say all that, but yeah, I do think that there is an air of like red herring here as well, especially later, and we're gonna get there. So Barry is not buying anything that Ray is saying, and he ends up bringing up rather unfairly and really kind of assholishly the fact that Ray is poor. And Barry thinks that Ray has just essentially been lying to them from the start, that he really just like wanted to fit in with the rich kids, but was secretly jealous of them the whole time, which is crazy. That was a real crazy thing to say to him. It came out of nowhere. So, of course, Ray is offended. Who wouldn't be? And Julie shuts all of that down, saying that they have to stick together, that none of this is helping. So Barry's like, okay, if it isn't Ray, then how do we find this guy? So that's when Julie brings up that they think it's a guy named Billy Blue. And Ray looks a little surprised and confused by this. He asks them how they know, and they tell them about the fact that they went and they met Missy. They remember that Billy Blue was apparently in the same class as David, which was year of 92, and so they decide to look through Helen's sister Elsa's yearbook. So they end up finding David in the yearbook, but no one named Billy Blue, obviously. And so they are finally like, well, maybe that's a fake name because we gave fake names. So they decide that what they need to do is bring the yearbook to Missy so she can point out Billy Blue. And Ray's like, fuck that. I'm not going there. So Julie's like, I'll fucking do it. She tells Helen that she and Barry should still go to the parade today. Helen really doesn't want to because she's scared, obviously. But Julie's like, well, you need to go in case the fisherman shows up. And she insists that this might be the only chance they have to catch him. So she says that Barry will be there with her. And Barry says that if he sees the guy, he can kick his ass.
He can't.
No, he can't. But Helen feels safer about it.
Of course she does.
She thinks the world of Barry.
Of Barry.
So Ray is still in the corner bitching.
Being useless.
Very useless. And he's all like indignant, and he's saying that they sound like vigilantes. And he tells Julie that right now they are at a fork. They need to make a decision. And this time they should make the right decision. And Julie tells him that at this point, she's not trying to make the right decision, quote unquote. She's trying to make the smart decision. Because remember, Julie just had a body in her trunk. Okay? So she's trying to be smart here, stay alive, because he's obviously killed someone.
I understand what she's saying, but I mean, but when they almost killed somebody at some point, she wanted them to go to the goddamn police, so she really doesn't have a leg to stand on when Ray is like, well, yo, let's just go see what we could do, make a plea deal or something, and now she's acting like that's so far-fetched. That's what I'm saying. This is what I like about Julie. Julie just wants to be, she wants to be sad about this shit, and she won't be mad at Ray.
That is fact.
So I'm right on that part. You agree?
Yes. But that's when he suggests that they leave town, disappear. Shut the fuck up.
Now you're just saying stuff.
Right. And like, I don't know if I'm looking at it like knowing about the events of the movie, but he's doing a lot, right?
Well, yeah, he is. He's trying to get her not to go see Missy, you know?
Yes. And they're like 19. They go to school, but they still live at home. Like, Ray, you're the only one that doesn't, but everybody else still lives with their parents. Disappear and go fucking where? That's an absurd thing to say.
I was also going to say, and we're four people who don't fuck with each other.
Well, yeah, we're not going to disappear together. That's insane. But he's being really weird right now. So they're all sitting there like very much against him. Like, look, either you're in or you're out. So that's when we cut to the parade, and Barry is riding on the float with Helen. And they do share a moment when they smile at each other sweetly, which is very nice because it's the first time since coming back together again. And then they go back to scanning the crowd for the fishermen. So Helen thinks that she spots the guy, so Barry runs after him, tackles him, but it ends up just being an elderly man in a slicker because everybody in this town apparently has a slicker. So after Barry runs off, Helen sees a few more men in slickers. They're not the guy. When finally she spots the actual fisherman on the roof of a building that they're passing, and she knows it's him because he ends up brandishing his hook. So meanwhile, Julie is arriving at Missy's house with the yearbook, and when she finds Missy on this very creepy property with hides and dead animals everywhere, Missy comes up to her with a knife, asking Julie what she's doing there. And Julie's obviously scared because Missy's coming on very strong. But it turns out that Missy is just like gutting a lot of fish. It's just a lot happening. But Julie asks Missy to find David's friend Billy Blue in the yearbook. And Missy is rightfully annoyed, asking, "What is this all about?" So Julie tells Missy that Julie didn't handle this well at all, in my opinion.
She fumbled.
High key. She tells Missy that what happened to her brother wasn't an accident. And to Julie's surprise, Missy's like, "Yeah, I know." So Missy tells Julie that David killed himself. He went up to the spot where Susie died because the whole town blamed him for her death, and he blamed himself. He was very guilty. So when Julie asks how she knows it was a suicide, Missy tells her that David left a note, and then she shows it to her. And it's written in that same black block lettering as the note that Julie got. And it says, "I will never forget last summer." When Julie sees it, she tells Missy that it's not a suicide note, but a death threat. And Missy is obviously confused because Julie's doing a really, really poor job at all of this. And Julie tells Missy, this is a lot. She tells Missy her brother didn't kill himself. She says that she was actually there that night and she saw him, and whoever wrote the note to Missy must have also been there that night as well. And she tells Missy that she and her friends hit David with their car and that it was an accident, and that she knows it was David because she saw the Susie tattoo on his arm. Missy is immediately like, "David didn't have any tattoos." And Julie's like, "Well, I saw it." And Missy's like, "Bitch."
I'm about to wear your ass off.
Yeah, she's like, "Get the fuck out of here." Because this is a lot. Julie is coming on very, very strong, especially when you're coming and rocking someone's life.
But also, at this point, you still not relieved that you didn't kill him?
No.
It's never enough with this girl. It's never enough. Like, they telling you, she's like, no, he killed himself. What do you mean he killed himself? But literally, Helen said the same thing last night.
Well, she's like, "But no."
But no, because then I can't be sad. And I have to be sad because I'm Julie James. And Julie James is sad.
I mean, essentially. And so even with all this stuff that Missy is telling her, she's telling her like David was depressed. He was guilty about what happened to Susie. She's like, "No, he didn't kill himself." Julie.
Keep it to yourself.
Yes. Why are you hashing this out right now with this dead guy's sister? Like, come on now.
Because if your whole thing was, I'm so sad because we ruined these people's lives, but this lady has had this thing, not that somebody killed her brother, that her brother killed himself.
Right. So at this point, Missy is pissed. Rightfully so. And she says one last time, he didn't have any damn tattoos. You didn't see that. And she tells her to get the hell out of there right now. So that's when Julie puts her fucking thinking cap on. And she realizes that it was not, in fact, David Egan that they hit that night. So then we cut back to Helen and Barry, and they are at the hall where the pageant is taking place. And Helen is obviously extremely upset because she saw the fisherman with his huge hook. Barry holds her and comforts her, and he tells her that he's going to protect her. Everything's going to be okay. So then we cut to that night, and the pageant has started. And they call Helen out to sit on stage as last year's winner. As she sits down, she makes sure that she can see Barry, who is up in the balcony watching. As the very rough talent portion of the pageant starts, Helen looks up again to make eye contact with Barry to make fun of this girl. But she then sees that the fisherman is coming up behind Barry and he's unaware. So she screams his name to warn him, but it's too late. The fisherman grabs him from behind and starts beating him up with his hook. Helen tries to run to him and she's begging the people in the audience to help, but the audience for some reason holds her back as she screams hysterically and just kind of watches helplessly as the fisherman hooks Barry to death. And so that's the second on-screen kill. I hate this scene.
Well, she's a woman, so she's obviously hysterical.
Yes. The scene is very much giving that. But then a police officer walks up.
So you know it's about to be worse than what it was before he got here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You could tell by his fucking face that he's about to be a nincompoop and make this shit 10 times worse. So he takes Helen up to the balcony to find Barry, but there's no trace of him. So the officer doesn't believe Helen. He doesn't believe that anyone was attacked. So he takes her back downstairs, and we as the audience see that there's a good bit of blood on a railing that the officer did not see. So once the pageant is over, Helen is sitting there pretty despondent, tears running down her face, and she's asking the officer to believe her, but he doesn't. And he says that he's going to take her home. In the cop car, the officer is being just a real fucking idiot asshole as Helen is trying to explain everything to him, and he just really does not believe her. And he's cracking jokes and everything, just really fucking annoying. Then they come upon a roadblock on this empty street, and the cop says that they're going to have to take the side alley. And I was like, you're an idiot.
And you're a cop, asshole. Like, wouldn't you know?
Wouldn't you know why there would be roadblocks here? Like, what the fuck are you talking about right now? Move it. Like, is this an authorized roadblock or not? It's the middle of the night. But, okay, they go down the alley. So at this point, Helen is pissed. And she calls the cop a little shit stick Mayberry ass reject, which, good for you. And she tells him that there's been a murder and that he's going to fry in hell if he chooses to ignore it. So to appease her, he tells her that he is going to contact Barry's parents in the morning and put out a search for him. But he truly believes that Barry is probably just playing a trick on her.
So you know I'm about to get pissed off. Because you know, as we talked about in many episodes, people don't just play jokes like that.
No.
I hate when they be like, it's just a prank. It's not a prank. Who be pranking like this?
No, this would be an insane prank, first of all. Additionally, why would you just assume that? You don't know anything about Barry. You don't know anything about our relationship. Barry's not a prankster.
He's so far from a prankster.
He is literally the farthest thing from a practical joker that you're gonna fucking meet. But why just write it off?
It's obviously a joke. Okay, but I'm telling you as somebody who know him that he don't do jokes like that. So why are you saying something so stupid?
This is a stupid thing. The least that you can do now is talk to his parents now. You're gonna wait until the morning? Why? Ask his parents if he's there. If they know where he is. Track his car. Like, it's very frustrating, and he's just really dismissive. But it's okay if you didn't like him, because he's not in the movie long. Just as he finishes saying that, they come across a man in the alley who appears to be having car trouble. When the officer gets out to help him, Helen can see that it is the fisherman. So she starts screaming to warn the cop, which causes him to turn around and look at her and not at the fisherman who is walking up behind him, pulling out his hook. And the fisherman ends up hooking the officer in the stomach, lifting him up off his feet before lying him on the ground dead, before he moves to focus on Helen. And that's the third on-screen kill. So he wipes his hook clean before walking towards the cop car where she's locked in the back. So Helen is eventually able to kick out the back window and climb out of the car and run away. While all of this is happening, Julie has been at home doing some more research, and she discovers that Susie Willis was survived by her father, a man named Ben Willis, who was a local fisherman. That's when it dawns on her that Ben Willis is actually the killer. So, cutting back to Helen, now she's running for her life, and Ben Willis is walking with a purpose behind her.
It's such a cool scene because she's running, and then it's just like they cut to him, and you could just see him just make that corner, just like almost. He doesn't even turn; just kind of like he just like pops out, and it's just like wow.
It's a great scene.
It's a great 10 minutes of movie.
Yes.
It's just crazy to think that on 4th of July, like nobody's here.
Well, I think that the thing is they're all in one area. I think that not a lot of people live in this town, and I think that there is a 4th of July parade that's happening right now, and I think that everybody is at that parade. So it's like the town's so small that everybody is at this parade, and unfortunately, they are not on a street that the parade is passing down. So the part of town that they're in is like desolate. But yeah, so this starts the Helen chase scene in the movie, which I feel like is a excellent example of a good chase scene. I thought Sarah Michelle Gellar did a great job. But yeah, she's running and it's dark and it's kind of like backlit. We see her running down this alley and then you see him like in silhouette in shadow coming down this alley behind her. But she ends up running to her family's store, the Shivers department store, and Elsa is still there. So Helen is frantically banging on the door with Ben Willis, hot on her heels, and he's nearly caught up to her as Elsa is like taking her time opening this fucking door. Once she lets Helen in, she then tells Helen that she could have gone to the back, the Broad Street entrance, because it's unlocked. But Helen isn't really like registering what she's saying because she's too frantic and she just tells Ella that she's being attacked, which Elsa doesn't believe. And Elsa irritates me because Helen at this point is really, really, really frantic. And she looks bad because she's been running from this guy. And Elsa's just like, what are you talking about? And I don't like this type of character.
Because it's not realistic to be so dismissive of someone who is obviously frantic.
Yes, exactly. This is not realistic. And she's telling you that she's being attacked, and that should warrant some kind of realistic, like, sympathy in some way, or at least some sort of self-preservation. Elsa doesn't have that. And so that's, like, frustrating to me. So she tells Elsa to go lock the back door. She says that she's going to call the police. And Elsa is still being overall pretty dismissive, which is like insane because now Helen is talking about calling the police. So you should really kind of know that she's serious. But Helen just yells at her to like, just fucking go do it. But Elsa's not moving with a purpose. She's not moving with any hustle at all through this entire scene. And so by the time she makes it to the back door, we as the audience get a shot of it closing behind someone, so we already know that the fisherman has made it inside. So when Elsa goes and locks the door, the fisherman comes up behind her, cornering her, and he pulls out his hook. She lets out a scream before the fisherman slices her throat with the hook, killing her and leaving a large spray of blood across the glass door. And this is the fourth on-screen kill.
When she would have said, like, well, the other door is open, we would have just both left.
I can't say with 100% certainty what I would have done, but I can say that whether I would have left or stayed or hid or what, I wouldn't have trusted Elsa to go lock the door. I would have been like, I'm gonna go lock the door. Elsa call the police, and if she's not calling the police, I'll call the police when I get back. But Elsa is moving through fucking molasses, and I would have ran to the back door and locked it. I mean, hustled. I can't understand why Helen entrusted Elsa with that job, because Elsa's not taking you seriously at all, and so she really meanders to the back door. But I can understand her not wanting to just like leave out the front door because she's just been chased by this guy here. She knows for a fact he's out there where she's supposed to go. I don't know. So Helen is on the phone. She's trying to reach the police when she hears Elsa scream and then nothing but the music that's playing in the store. So she calls out for Elsa, but we get a shot of the fisherman carrying Elsa's body with his hook, and she's very much dead. So when Helen goes to find Elsa, she's walking through the store past all these mannequins that Elsa was covering with plastic wrap when she got there. And she walks past one of them before turning back with an uneasy feeling. And she's staring at the mannequins. And it turns out that one of them is the fisherman. He's hidden under the plastic covers and he lunges at Helen, tackling her to the floor, which I thought was like super silly. It gave me Michael Myers vibes because Michael Myers does silly, ridiculous.
Like, just like in the middle of this, why did you decide to like just, I guess, spice it up?
Right. Like, you're just like, well, I'm just gonna like blend in with these mannequins so that I can trick her. It just felt very, very much like hijinksy, like Michael does. But he tackles her to the floor, but now it's all awkward because she jumps right up because Helen is working overtime. She's trying to stay alive. But now you're covered in a thick ass plastic wrap. And so now you have to like awkwardly
In a hot ass liquor.
in a hot ass fucking slinger, and I know that you're sweating. And so now that you have to awkwardly like pull this fucking 12-foot piece of plastic off of you, like inch by inch, so that you can get up to chase her, I was like, this is kind of silly. But Helen pops up and she starts running again. She makes it to a door, but everything is locked up at this point with keys that she does not have, so she can't get out. So just then she turns and she sees Elsa's bloody body thrown just kind of haphazardly on the floor of this bathroom. And so she lets out this blood curdling scream before the fisherman rounds the corner heading straight for her. So Helen thinks quickly and she jumps on this like hand operated service elevator. I guess it's kind of like a dumbwaiter type thing. It's just like a really big. So she's standing on it. And the whole time, the fisherman is trying to slice at her feet, but she pulls herself up. She brings herself to the second floor. So there's really nowhere to go here. So she does the only thing that she can think of, and she runs to a window and she ends up jumping out of the second story window just as the fisherman is taking a swipe at her. So she ends up landing on the ground below on some trash, nothing near soft enough to break her fall. So she's pretty disoriented, but Helen is a real fighter. So she just shakes it off really quick. She jumps up and she keeps running. So she ends up running through this like industrial area. She's going through all these alleys with all these like tires piled up along the fences, and she's not like totally sure where she is. But then she sees some fireworks popping and she hears the sound of the 4th of July parade. So she is relieved and she starts running towards that. She's a little hurt from that fall, so she's limping a little bit. And so she ends up running, nearly making it to the parade. She has maybe 5 more feet to go until she would be like marching with the marching band. She's like right there. But that's when she stops and turns around to see if the fisherman is following her. Just then, the fisherman appears behind her. Now he is between her and the parade. And when she turns around, he ends up pushing her into a stack of tires. And she's fighting him. She does fight him for a minute. She's able to hold him off, but eventually he overpowers her because he's much bigger than her. The fisherman is a pretty big guy, and he ends up killing her in the midst of these tires with his hook, just like mere feet away from safety. It's so frustrating, and I hate it. And I think that Helen was robbed of her final girl status.
Because now we gotta sit through the rest of this goddamn movie with Julie.
Yes. That was the 5th on-screen kill.
Turn the movie off. Turn the movie off.
I mean, yes, Helen was definitely a highlight of the movie. The entertaining one.
Her and Barry were the best characters.
Agreed. And now we're left with like Smopey Julie and Magoo Ray. It's a lot. Every single time she stops, I'm always just like, I don't know. Is it probable that the fisherman would be behind her? I know that he probably left the building and he didn't even chase her out of the building. I think when she jumped and landed on the ground, I think that he probably left her store and just headed straight to the parade a different way, and that's how he was able to cut her off. I don't think he was even chasing her anymore.
They just wanted us to like Julie, and the only way for us to like Julie was to kill off everybody else.
That's fair. That is a fair assessment. I hate it every single time I watch it, though. I did not want Helen to die, but... So now this whole time, Julie has been running around town looking for Helen. So when she can't find her, she ends up running to the docks where Ray's boat is located. She explains to him about how it wasn't David Egan that they hit, but instead Susie Willis's father, Ben Willis. Ray is confused because he's like, but they found David Egan in the water. But Julie believes that Ben Willis killed David Egan as a revenge for killing his daughter Susie. And then after he was done with that, they happened upon him that night, right after that event took place. She also doesn't believe that Ben Willis really died that night because, duh, girl, he was alive when you left him. What are we talking about? What are we talking about right now, Julie?
He was standing in that water like how Michael was standing behind that fireproof glass.
That Dante, that's exactly what it was like. He was literally just like chilling. Barry came up and he was like, "Can I fucking help you?" He's gripping this damn crown. I know that Barry didn't tell them, like, hey, when I went down there, he totally, like, opened his eyes and looked at me. I know that he didn't relay that. But, like, I feel like, why not? This is all proof to me that this dude is insanely alive. And he was manhandling Helen, so he clearly has the strength to swim out of this damn water. And y'all were like, well, guess we killed him. Why do you think that? So now she's like, well, I don't think he died that night. Girl, you know he didn't die that night. My chest hurts. I'm getting all hot. Julie, put your fucking thinking cap on, please.
Just fucking shut up.
Well, Ray is just as dense as Julie is. Maybe even more. And he's like also a little too calm in this moment. So he's just like, word, that's crazy. But Julie, why don't you come aboard my boat? Get up on in here, girl. Even though she is really insistent that they find Helen and Barry. And he's like, we'll do that. Just get on the boat, Julie. And it's just like, it's very weird. And this is like definitely red herring territory. Because Julie's like uneasy about it, but she takes Ray's hand. And just as she's about to board, she notices that the name of his boat is Billy Blue.
It's George Glass.
Glass! George Glass!
So you and George came from Canada all along.
All along. It was you.
It was you.
But it's like the depths of the deception. Because it's like, oh yeah, you lied to Missy. Okay, that's fair. I get it. But we've been talking about Billy Blue for 48 fucking hours. And at no point did you want to be like, wait, actually, guys, I was Billy Blue. I just wanted to see the person's family just like Julie did. I just wanted to know what we did. Like, at any point, you could have come forward and been like, I was Billy Blue.
Because you could have saved that trip for Julie, and then we would have just all went to the goddamn parade.
Together and look for the fisherman. Then it would have been 4 against 1. But no, you knew that Helen had parade queen obligations. So now Barry was basically alone. Like, Barry was just supposed to handle the situation by himself. Barry is the smallest quarterback in college football history. He was not going to fight. How tall is Muse Watson?
He gotta be 6'3".
At least. I just don't think that he was going to be able to fight this man. And this man is a fisherman. He's strong. So y'all really kind of had Barry like stuck out. But yeah, Ray, at any time you could have come clean. Just at any time. And I think because he brings it up later, I think that maybe Missy wasn't totally delusional about Billy Blue being like sweet on her. Because I kind of think that might be a part of the reason that he didn't want to tell Julie. Because he had this like thing. Because he says later, and we'll get there, that he just really wanted Julie back. And that's his like reasoning for not being honest about the Billy Blue thing.
I thought that he went over there and kind of flirted with her just to get some answers.
I did too.
I don't think that he was ever like interested in her.
It doesn't matter though if he was interested or not. It's the fact that he pretended to be, or that she perceived that they had a thing going, and I think that he didn't want Julie to find that out.
So he saw her more than once?
I believe he saw her more than once. Yeah, because she was like, we were sweet on each other, but it didn't last.
I thought she was just saying to herself, like, I thought he liked me, and then he never called me. I thought she was like being crazy because, you know, she's lonely.
Missy is very, very, very strange, but I don't think that Missy is like crazy. I think that Billy went there. Billy. The man's name is not George Glass. It's Ray. I think that Ray went there more than once. That's what I got from it. Whatever. So at this point, Julie starts spiraling. She realizes that Ray is the one who went to Missy's house pretending to be David's friend. And this is, Dante, I almost took my headphones off because I'm super irritated. Because when I was watching the movie, I was like, I'm so fucking sick of Julie. I'm so fucking sick of this character.
I've been sick of Julie since they hit the man.
That's in the first 6 minutes of the movie.
She's so unpleasant.
Well, Dante, she's like, it was you. You went to Missy's house. You were pretending to be David's friend. And that means you're the fisherman. You are the murderer.
You think I'm out here killing people?
Julie.
What
the fuck are you talking about? Can we have a conversation about it? Like 1 + 1 = 3 here, Julie. That doesn't make sense.
Julie. Didn't you just learn that you jump to conclusions and have the wrong answer all the goddamn time?
Yes. I'm so fucking sick of. She's like, you must be the fisherman. And before Ray can explain, Julie literally runs away. Just starts running away. With Ray behind her, because he's like, wait, Julie.
I'm not a killer.
And I have a very, very simple explanation for that. I went and I talked to her, but Julie, so did you.
But Julie James, the only person who can be sad, the only person who can have feelings, the moral high ground, the queen of all things that are not Croker, she is the only person who can do things.
Yes.
So because she is the only person who can do things and someone else does the same thing she does, they are wrong and they are a killer.
Yes. Because I had a reason to do it, but you don't have a reason to do it because you didn't even feel bad that we killed the guy, essentially.
Because I'm the one who said we should have called the cops the first time. And even though you said to call the cops today, that's different because it's not when I said to say it. I am Julie James.
I was about to say the same thing. Julie James. Essentially, she's saying all of that without actually saying all of that. What she does do is she just starts running. That's her solution. She just starts fucking running. Now, she ends up getting to a locked gate. The gate that she came in is now like padlocked. So she has to turn back and run the other way. So that has her running right past Ray, who is still trying to stop her to explain everything. But that's when a man sees Ray chasing her and he clotheslines Ray, knocks him clean out. Ray is on the ground, on his back. So now she is asking this utter stranger to help her, and she says that she needs to call the police. So the man directs her to his boat and tells her to hurry and get on. Once she's on the boat, she notices a room that has pictures taped all over the wall. It's pictures of her and her friends taken without her knowledge. So this is what we were talking about earlier when we were like, well, is he just watching them? Yes, because there's actual pictures of them when they were standing outside after Helen got her hair cut and Julie found the body in her trunk where they're talking. There's pictures of Helen at the parade. It's just a lot of shots. There's also newspaper clippings about Susie Willis. So she knows at this point that she's in trouble. But at this point, the man has undocked the boat. He's taken off the rope that was anchoring them to the dock, and now they're just like floating out to sea. So when he comes into the room that she's in, we see him flick that metal medallion and we hear that familiar chime that it makes, which confirms to us that this really is the fisherman. So then he starts talking to Julie and he tells her that kids like her should be out on the 4th of July having fun, drinking, partying, running people over, getting away with murder, things like that. And we then see his face for the first time, and Julie confirms that it is, in fact, Ben Willis. So Julie runs out of the room only to discover that they floated away from the dock. And she feels trapped. But Dante, I was like, can Julie not swim?
No.
They were not that far from the dock. She lives in a beach town. I was very confused. They are so close to the dock. I was angry. I would have taken my chances in the water. But Ray is now at the dock watching them float away.
This is the thing. Now, it's Frey's responsibility to save Julie.
Yes.
I told you, get on the goddamn boat.
Right. Yes. So now Julie is stuck. Very, very much damsel in distress.
She's stuck, and Ben Willis was like, it's been up and stuck for a year.
Ben Willis has her in the exact place that he wanted. Ben Willis was probably like, that was actually too easy. I actually had to break a sweat with Helen. So Julie is stuck on this boat now, and now Ray, of course, has to find a way to help her. So Julie ends up climbing down into a lower portion of the boat while Ben tries to get to her. While all of this is happening, Ray has come to, and he's taken a small dinghy from the dock to catch up to Ben Willis's boat. Once Ray catches up to the boat, he climbs aboard, and Ben goes to confront him, and they get into a fight. So Julie climbs up to the top deck to see what's happening, and she's so annoying because they're in a physical altercation right now.
She's so fucking annoying. Why did she do this?
Well, she ends up screaming Ray's name. He's in the middle of a fight, okay? Just picture it. So he looks at her, of course, and distracts him. He's not focusing on what he's doing. And he gets knocked so damn hard with that hook, it knocks him over the side of the boat into the ocean.
The straight up ocean.
Straight up. So she heads back down into the bottom of the boat and she finds a way to lock herself down there. She then finds an area of the boat that's filled with ice. It's like an area where a fisherman would keep fish for like a long haul. And she is shoveling ice against the door that she came through just to make it more difficult for Ben Willis to get in. When she ends up moving this mound of ice and Helen's body comes sliding down in front of her. So of course she screams. She shuffles backwards only for her hand to land on Barry's cold, dead face. So that's when she runs away, but Ben Willis is able to head her off. He has her trapped, but during this time, Ray was able to climb back up and he launches a rope with this large metal hook on it at Ben, and it hits him with so much force it's able to briefly knock him down, giving Ray enough time to pull Julie up to the top deck of the boat. And they're looking together for a way to escape when Ben Willis comes to, knocks Ray down, and then goes to kill Julie. She tries to tell him that what they did was an accident, but Ben Willis really isn't trying to hear any of that. And he tells her that the next time you leave a man for dead, make sure he's really dead. And when he lifts up his hook to go strike her, his hand gets caught in a bunch of ropes and cables. And Ray takes that opportunity to turn on the motor to this like rig that Ben Willis's hand is stuck in. And it's all entangled. So Ben Willis ends up getting pulled upward as this line is getting pulled all the way to the top of the mast. And his hand gets jammed into one of these rigs and it gets chopped off. Ben Willis is then thrown upside down, dangling by this rope, and eventually he gets thrown off the side of the boat into the ocean. Ray and Julie embrace, and then we cut to they're back on the dock, and the sheriff's department is there searching the boat because of all these bodies, and the water looking for Ben Willis. Ray explains to Julie that the guilt that he was experiencing was killing him, and he had to know exactly who they hit, and that's why he ended up going to Missy's house and pretending to be Billy Blue. It wasn't for any nefarious reasons, and he says that he didn't tell her because he loves her and he really wanted her back, and he didn't want to lose her again. So they then embrace more, and she even says something along the lines of, so we really didn't kill anyone in all that time. And Ray's like, yes, exactly.
But Barry and Helen are dead.
Yes. So then a police officer comes up to them and he asks them if they have any idea why Ben Willis would want them dead. They look at each other before replying, no. And then we hear another officer yell that they found Ben's body, but when they pull up the net, it's only his severed hand, still holding on to his hook. The police officer tells them not to worry, the body will turn up, they always do. And that's when we cut to 1 year later, and Julie is back at college. So she is back to her very bright and bubbly self. And she's on the phone with Ray, and we learn that she's doing much better, and she's made the dean's list. They're back together.
But Helen's dead.
And Barry. And Max, who really had nothing to do with any of this. So she ends up telling Ray that she loves him, she misses him, but she has to go take a shower because she's running late. And she turns on the shower, turns on the hot water to start getting it going. And then when she gets off the phone, she goes out of the shower area to get a piece of mail that her roommate just dropped off for her. And when she sees it, her heart stops. It's a envelope and it just has her name on it in black block letters. She slowly opens it, but it turns out to just be a pool party invitation. So she laughs and heads back into the bathroom to shower. At this point, it's totally filled with steam, so visibility is pretty poor. But she can see that written on the shower door is, I still know. So she frantically looks around instead of running out before she hears the familiar chime of that medallion. And when she slowly turns back to the shower door, Ben Willis jumps through the glass, and then the screen cuts to black as we hear Julie's scream. And then the credits start to roll. And that is the end of the movie. So the kill count for the movie is 5. We are obviously not including David because we don't see him die, and we're not including Ben Willis because, surprise, surprise, he isn't dead. So the Rotten Tomatoes for this movie is a 45% critic and a 41% audience, and I feel like that's kind of unfairly low.
Why?
Because I don't think that this movie is that bad. I think that had the movie come out before Scream, that the ratings would be higher. Because I think that people inevitably compare the movie to Scream a lot, and it is not nearly what that movie was. But I do think that the premise of the movie is a good one, and I think it has some really good scenes. I think that it deserves to be a little bit higher than that. I would say at least 60s. I think the movie is fun. I think it's a fun movie. I don't think it's a masterpiece, but I just think the 40s is a little unfair. But the IMDb score is a 5.8 out of 10 with 159,000 reviews. And so, fun facts. Lois Duncan, the author of the original novel, she actually hated the movie. She heavily criticized the adaptation because, like we said earlier, in the book, nobody dies. They have brushes with near death, but nobody is killed. Not Barry, not Helen, nobody. Besides the child that they ran over in the beginning. So, in a 2002 interview, she actually said that she was appalled that her story was turned into a slasher film. And that is because Lois Duncan's youngest daughter was actually murdered by an unknown assailant. They were never caught in 1989. And so she said, quote, "As the mother of a murdered child, I don't find violent death something to squeal and giggle about," which is understandable. Her stance is very understandable. So yeah, she never liked this movie, and I'm sure liked the sequels even less. So I'm sure a lot of people know this, that in that climactic scene where Jennifer Love Hewitt walks into the middle of the street and she's screaming to the killer, like, "What are you waiting for?" So Jennifer Love Hewitt did an interview and she said that that scene was actually thought of and directed by a child who won a contest to like come and create a moment for the movie. And in the interview, she said that she did not like the idea at all. She didn't want to do it, but she ended up going through with it. And she admits now that the scene, quote, became the biggest part of the movie and that ultimately it was a great idea. So, like we said earlier, Kevin Williamson wrote the script for I Know What You Did Last Summer prior to writing Scream, but he was unable to sell it. But following the major success of Scream, Columbia Pictures immediately bought I Know What You Did Last Summer and produced it in order to capitalize on the newfound success of slashers that Scream was able to drum up. And because I Know What You Did Last Summer is mostly a straight up modern update of the old slasher horror movie rather than this like really meta deconstruction of the genre, many critics and fans thought that it was a huge step down for Williamson, thinking that he was way more clever and innovative with the Scream script, which is not untrue. But I think that a lot of people don't realize that the progression of his writing goes I Know What You Did Last Summer and then Scream. So this one did actually come first. So some casting stuff. So Reese Witherspoon additionally auditioned for the role of Julie James, but she changed her mind and she withdrew. She did, however, recommend her then boyfriend, Ryan Phillippe, for the role of Barry, and he did get that because Ryan was kind of a bigger star at the time. Jennifer Love Hewitt originally auditioned for the role of Helen, and then Sarah Michelle Gellar originally auditioned for the role of Julie, but they ended up switching those roles because Jennifer Love Hewitt did a better job at showing like vulnerability. She could look really sad.
Pathetic.
Yes, like Julie does throughout the whole movie. And then Sarah Michelle Gellar, the director, said, I wanted an actress that had a warmth to her, but could still come off as being a bitch. And I think that suits Sarah Michelle Gellar perfectly.
I don't think Helen is ever a bitch in any part of the movie, though.
Well, I think that she can come off as a little bit of a bitch. Like, remember when she's like insulting the cop? She's like pretty scathing. But no, you're right. She is not a bitch, but she's also not a Julie either. I think that it was a smart decision.
Oh, yeah.
I think that Jennifer Love Hewitt works for Julie, and I think that Sarah Michelle Gellar works for Helen. Because Helen is also supposed to be a beauty queen. And remember when she's judging the girl on stage, that's kind of bitchy. Like, I think that I understand what he's saying. Sarah Michelle Gellar does have an edge that Jennifer Love Hewitt does not have.
I'd rather than say edge and be like she was a bitch. That's what I'm saying.
Yes. But then Freddie Prinze Jr. So, according to Freddie Prinze Jr., the director, Jim Gillespie, did not want him for the role. He straight up wanted a different actor. So Freddie Prinze Jr. said, quote, there was no passive aggressiveness, which I hate. He was very direct in the fact that I don't want you in this movie. So when that's your first job and you hear those words, it just wrecks you. Freddie Prinze Jr. also said that the director would leave him these psychotic notes like, quote, don't leave your mouth open. You look stupid when you do that.
Real personal.
Real personal, because he does do that sometimes, leave his mouth hanging open. Freddie Prinze Jr., the experience actually almost made him quit acting altogether because in addition to all of this aggression from the director, he also had a near-death experience during the boating scene when he's on that dinghy and he's chasing Ben Willis in that choppy water. He ends up getting up to the fishing boat and the dinghy flips and he hurt himself. I think he hurt his hand really bad. He almost drowns. And so he really wanted to give up. Now, in another interview, the director, Jim Gillespie, actually said that he was the one who advocated for the casting of Prince when, quote, nobody wanted Freddie. So he says that, stop, because it's all so messy. He says that Freddie Prinze Jr. was cast because he, the director, felt like he had an everyman quality, but Freddie Prinze Jr. wasn't the first pick or obvious choice for Ray. He said nobody wanted Freddie and, quote, they thought he was too soft. He wasn't muscular enough. So Freddie probably screen tested 4 or 5 times. He got to the point where he was saying, I'm done. And I really had to plead with him to stick with it because I wanted him. He said, I thought he was going to be great with it. He went to the gym and worked out, changed his diet, he cut his hair. I stuck to my guns, and eventually they all said yes. And I was like,
you lying.
Somebody here is lying. Yes. I was like, I don't believe you.
I don't believe this director.
I don't believe the director because Freddie Prinze Jr. was so upset. So like I said, he really wanted to give up acting altogether. But his co-stars, so Sarah Michelle Gellar and Ryan Phillippe, they ended up having to talk him into staying on the film because he was like, I'm leaving. There was 3 weeks left of shooting, but he was like, I do not feel like I can do it anymore. And so he was like, I'm just going to quit. And they convinced him to stay. They were like, come on, just please, like, do it for us. We're almost done. We're going to get through this, like, together as a team. And that's what pulled him through the experience and had him finish the movie. And he and Sarah Michelle Gellar got really close. And so then, as everybody knows, they ended up getting married after that. So I do not believe that Freddie Prinze Jr. is just like making all of this up.
Right. That's just so crazy that he's like, I warned you, actually.
And Freddie Prinze is like, no.
That's not true.
That's not true, Ellen. So yeah, that's all that I have for the fun facts. So with all that being said, do you give this movie a hit or a miss?
It was hard because we haven't done this movie yet, but I love Scream 2. And why I love Scream 2 over Scream 1 is because I love watching a movie where the characters are actually actively trying to solve the mystery. And I think that this movie does a really good job of showing us the characters actively trying to solve the mystery. And I love that. When it's a mystery drama, it's really good. When it's a slasher, it's just very boring. And when Jennifer Love Hewitt is on the screen, it's just phenomenal. So it had to give me an extra 20 at the door to get in. But I'm going to give it a hit, but only because I got that extra 20.
Okay, I accept that. Well, I give this movie a hit. I like this movie. I think it's a fun watch. I love Sarah Michelle Gellar and I love Ryan Phillippe. I like the concept of the movie and I think that it flows well. I think that there's, obviously it's not, like I said earlier, a masterpiece. I think that it is not Scream, but I think that it's unfairly compared to Scream. It's based on a book. And while it is very different than that book, the idea of it comes from a novel, so it's not fair to compare it to Scream. It's not even trying to be that meta type, deconstructing the genre type movie. So when you don't compare it to that and when you look at it as just like a plain fun slasher, I think that it's good. I think that it's one of the standout ones from all those movies that were coming out at the time because there were a lot of movies like that filling up the slasher genre after Scream came out. And I think this is one that people go back to. They're making a new one now and people are really excited about it. And I think that it's because at its core, it's a fun movie to watch. But yeah, that's how I feel. I give it a hit. We are going to be covering the second movie, and I know that people are going to come for me, but I actually prefer watching that one more. I know people hate it, and we're going to talk about its Rotten Tomato score when we get there, but I do think that one is a little bit more fun. I don't think everything always has to be a masterpiece. I don't have to watch a 10 out of 10 movie every time I watch a movie. If I did, I wouldn't be able to watch 90% of the horror catalog. So that's how I feel about these movies. I just think they're fun. So yeah, I think that is it for us.
Do you want to tell them about the social media?
Okay. We love to hear from you guys. Please follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook with the handle Did You Get That on Film? You can also email us at didyougеттhatonfilm@gmail.com. For our Spotify and Apple Podcast listeners, leave us a review as well as a rating. Reviews are the best way to support the podcast and help it reach a further audience.
That sounds great. And that's it for this week. We will see you next week with a brand new episode. So until then,
Bye!